Hi everyone, this is Eagle News. I'm David Oria in Washington. It's Saturday, September 9th, 2023, here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with a stark reality check from the United Nations. The world is failing women and girls. This, according to UN report on gender equality released Thursday. Shen Kadasale has the details.
The United Nations warns that the world is abandoning women and girls. From the fight against poverty to education access, from political representation to economic opportunity. A report from UN Women reviewed the progress made on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG. The SDG was adopted by the body's members in 2015. These goals are meant to create a better world for all by the year 2030. UN's Sarah Hendricks says the results of the review are not so bright.
And so simply put, we are very far from where we should be at the midpoint of the SDGs. And if we fail to take action, our trajectory appears very grim. If current trends continue, what you'll see in the report is that over 340 million women and girls will be trapped in extreme poverty by 2030.
The gender equality goals by the end of the decade include eliminating gender discrimination, violence against women, forced marriages and genital mutilation, to make domestic work more equal, to guarantee access to reproductive health care, and to ensure women's participation in political and economic life. The report warns, however, that halfway to 2030, the world is failing women and girls, with most of the goals' targets falling behind. Every year, 245 million women over age 15 are victims of physical violence by their partners. 1 in 5 women are married before age 18. Women spend 2.8 more hours per day doing unpaid housework than their male counterparts, and women represent only 26.7% of all lawmakers worldwide. To change these trends, the UN estimates it would cost some $360 billion in additional investments per year in 50 developing countries. These countries represent some 70% of the world's population. Hendricks says that money would enable the lifting of the entire SDG agenda. Shen Kadusali,
Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Another heartbreaking and tragic report from the United Nations, this time about children in Latin America and the Caribbean. According to UNICEF, children are fleeing the region in record numbers. Thomas I. Likeness reports on the situation.
They leave their homes, some unaccompanied, others with parents, relatives, acquaintances, to embark upon a perilous journey. It takes them through this dangerous jungle in Panama. It's called the Darien Gap. UNICEF spokesman Gary Canile says it's a huge problem.
Children are now migrating within Latin America and the Caribbean at an unprecedented rate, constituting a larger share of the migrant population than any other region worldwide.
So why are they risking their lives? Canile says many factors are driving these youngsters from their homes.
Encompassing factors such as rampant gang violence, the escalating effects of climate change, and exacerbated inequalities and poverty.
They account for a quarter of the migrants transiting the region, and that number is growing. The risks are many: disease, injury, family separation, abuse. But they soldier on in search of a better life. Canile says every year more and more children are on the move, and he says they're increasingly younger.
The profiles of child migrants is evolving, with children under 11 years of age now comprising up to 91% of all children on the move.
Canile says so far this year, more than 40,000 children have crossed the perilous Darien Gap. That matches the record number for the entire year of 2022, and tragically that year, at least 92 of them never made it to their destination. They died or disappeared due to violence, exploitation, abuse, and natural hazards. And for those who do make it, the ending isn't always happy. The journey can have lasting physical and psychological consequences. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
The nation's capital, Washington, D.C., baked in a dangerous heat wave felt across the northeastern U.S. this week. Mayor Muriel Bowser recently activated a hot weather emergency for 5 consecutive days. Rosel Feria reports.
Heat records were broken in recent days here in the nation's capital, some that have stood since 1881, and the sweltering weather is expected to continue. The National Weather Service warns that the heat index in the eastern United States will stay close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 37 degrees Celsius. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser activated a hot weather emergency from Sunday to Thursday. Every time the temperature or heat index forecast to reach 95 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for at least 4 consecutive days, a hot weather emergency is put in place. During this kind of emergency, Washington sets up cooling centers for residents seeking relief from the heat. The district reminds residents to recognize signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. These include dry red skin, convulsions, throbbing headaches, disorientation, chills, delirium, and coma. It warns that onset of heat stroke can be rapid. A person can go from feeling apparently well to a seriously ill condition within minutes. Amid this extreme heat, residents are urged to stay cool, keep hydrated, and check on seniors, unsheltered residents, and vulnerable neighbors. Authorities also say walk your pets early in the morning, give them plenty of water, and do not leave them in vehicles which can reach dangerous temperatures within 10 minutes. Rosel Feria, Washington, D.C. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, in New York, the city's police department agrees to reform protest measures like eliminating kettling, a form of crowd control, and other forceful tactics. Joanne Soriano tells us more.
A landmark agreement was made between the New York City Police Department and the State Attorney General's office reforming police response to protests and demonstrations. As a result of the agreement, the NYPD will be required to change how it deploys officers to demonstrations to allow New Yorkers to exercise their First Amendment rights, free from intimidation or violence. The ruling resolves lawsuits over the department's wrongful arrests and excessive use of force against protesters during the summer of 2020. The centerpiece of the reforms is a new 4-tiered response system. It will minimize police presence at protests and require the NYPD to use de-escalation methods before increasing its response. The system allows for increased presence and response if protesters block major traffic arteries, engage in unlawful conduct, or in other instances that compromise public safety. The NYPD will create a new senior role within the department to oversee response to all public demonstrations. They will be required to stop their use of the crowd control tactic known as kettling, the practice of surrounding individuals and then arresting them. Additionally, they must also improve treatment of members of the press and improve reporters' access to a protest to be able to record and report. To ensure accountability, a new collaborative oversight committee will review the NYPD's response to public demonstrations over a multi-year period. Joanne Soriano, New York, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now in Canada, controversies surrounding Ontario's Greenbelt land forced the province's housing minister to quit his post. The Greenbelt land, one of the most biologically rich areas in all of the country, is also the world's largest protected land of 2 million acres. In Toronto, Yolanda Ospiris has that story.
Ontario's Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister Steve Clark has resigned this week over controversies regarding the Greenbelt lands. A few weeks ago, Auditor General Bonnie Lysyk released a report that the government had removed 2,995 hectares of land from the Greenbelt, which were supposed to be off limits to any kind of development or sale as protected by provincial laws. The apparent reason for removing these lands was to build more housing units in the province. It was reported that the decision as to which site should be removed was made by Clark's chief of staff, Ryan Amato, as he allegedly favored two key developers who ended up 92% of the removed land. Amato has resigned in August following these allegations. Integrity Commissioner J. David Wade has also found that the selection process over which lands were to be removed from the Greenbelt was made with unnecessarily hastiness and deception. After this report was released, Ontario announced that they will be returning some of the lands back to the Greenbelt. Premier Ford has shown support for Clark and has promised to do better moving forward. 3 days later, Clark officially and formally resigned as housing minister. Ontario's Greenbelt is one of the most biologically rich areas in all of Canada and the world's largest protected land of 2 million acres. Yolanda Aspiras, Toronto, Ontario, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Indonesia and Papua New Guinea's top leaders reaffirmed the two countries' commitment to further strengthen their relationship. Here's Eka Ortaleza Quinola on Oceania at a Glance.
The two leaders underscored the significance of respecting territorial integrity and sovereignty and reaffirmed their commitment to maintain stronger relations. As follow-up on their meeting in Papua New Guinea in July this year, the two leaders stressed on the need to expedite conclusion of trade agreements. This, to reduce tariff barriers to benefit both sides by encouraging increased flow of trade activities.
Economic activity is once again booming since the opening of this core mutual border and the launch of the direct flight between Port Moresby and Denpasar.
In relation to the alleged human rights issues in West Papua, Marape says Papua New Guinea has no moral grounds to comment on these outside its own jurisdictions. The bilateral meeting ends with Marape's request from Widodo for more support for Papua New Guinean students to study in leading Indonesian educational institutes. He says this would build stronger connection between the younger generations of both countries.
I want to say thank you very much. Your leadership is appreciated. Indonesia and under your leadership, especially the placement of PNG in the forefront of your foreign policy outlook is sincerely appreciated also.
Eka Ortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Extraordinary stories from Thomas I. Likeness today. From handwritten love notes in Sudan, to a glassblower in Egypt passing on the family trade, to 3 dogs performing in a chorus. These and more on Correspondent at Large.
And now, news and commentary from around the globe. How do you stay in touch with people when there's no cell service? No internet? Well, I guess you go old school, like we used to do. Handwritten letters. That's how people in parts of war-ravaged Sudan are communicating with their relatives. This is 25-year-old Ahmed Issa. Here at this roadside cafe, he pens a letter to his relatives that he left behind. Taxi drivers take the letters to recipients. Could take a week or more. That's because there's roadblocks, checkpoints, bombs. Even nature creates hindrances with downpours that wash out roads. Meantime, the sender waits for a reply. We here take our conveniences for granted. Something else that's old school, centuries old school, glassblowing. Egyptian glass beads that date back to 2500 BC are the first known glass objects. These days in Egypt, Mahmoud Ahmed shapes glass into cups and plates at his father's workshop in Cairo. The trade's been in his family for generations. His father learned it from his father. They practiced the art in front of a 1200 degrees Celsius stone oven. Mahmoud's father, Khaled, says not everyone can take the heat. Says it's hard work in these high temperatures, and he says the heat has even affected his eyesight. But Colette and his sons endure because that's how they make a living. Do you like a cup of Morning Joe? Are you into exotic coffees? I myself just like a brewed black coffee in the morning, nothing fancy, and I don't think I'll be trying any of this. In Brazil, there's a coffee that's made from the droppings, that's right, the droppings of a bird that eats ripe coffee cherries. The jacus bird, it's a type of pheasant native to tropical forests there. The jacus eats the ripe cherries. And what comes out a while later are beans. Workers at the Camusin coffee farm scoop up the droppings, which go on to be sold as some of the most expensive coffee in the world. Sells for more than $220 a kilo. There are claims that it's among the most delicious of brews. I think I'll just take the connoisseur's word for it. For now, I'll stick with my grocery store Java. And we say welcome to this Sumatran elephant calf born last week in Indonesia. She's the fifth offspring of her 41-year-old mother, born at Teso Nilo National Park. Hasn't been named yet. According to the World Wildlife Fund, Sumatran elephants are near extinction. There are less than 3,000 of these pachyderms left in the world. In Denmark, an unusual trio accompanied the Danish Chamber Orchestra as it played Mozart's Hunting Symphony. Now, this wasn't written by the famous Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. No. His father Leopold composed it. And the trio of Cookie, Sophus, and Sika, well, they provided the backup vocals. Now, these weren't regular vocals. You see, these three performers are dogs, a canine chorus, if you will. These dogs bark on command with the music. The three hounds were selected at an audition last spring for their barking skills, and they've been working with their masters, who reward them with treats to get them to bark on cue. Let's sample some of the talent. The symphony is rarely performed with dogs on stage. Instead, orchestras usually use recorded sounds. But you know, there's nothing like a live performance. I'll be back in 7 days, and in the meantime, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Gaming enthusiasts from across the globe headed to Washington State during Labor Day weekend. This for the world's largest gaming convention, PAX West. Now in its 19th year, PAX West returned to the Seattle Convention Center with the industry's newest technology. Francis Francisco has that story on Color My World.
PAX West, one of the gaming industry's most anticipated events, took Seattle by storm this year. Gamers from all around the world flocked to celebrate their shared passions of all things gaming. The atmosphere at PAX West was electrifying, with cosplayers transforming into their favorite characters and fans eagerly exploring the latest games and technologies. Gaming giants showcased their upcoming releases, and attendees had the chance to get hands-on with titles like Tekken 8 and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The buzz around these games are palpable. VR content was also a mainstay, with various companies showing their iteration of virtual reality technology. Video game streamers were also in attendance.
So this is my first time here in PAX. My favorite thing about PAX so far is indie games. Those are really cool, just to see like all the new concepts that are coming out and to be able to kind of like, I guess, test drive it. So it's really fun.
Now let's turn our attention to another gaming powerhouse, Nintendo. For the first time ever, the gaming giant held its Nintendo Live event outside of Japan.
Say the new Nintendo Live part is really fun. And there's a bunch of Nintendo themed stuff, very kid-friendly, and there's even a concert. Nintendo part is very good for families. And if you just want to meet people who likes video games or tabletop game and just meet new communities maybe, or people that you've met online, it's very fun.
It's clear that the gaming world is alive and thriving, with plenty of exciting experiences on the horizon.
It's a really great convention. I highly recommend it for families, to bring out people who, haven't really been to a convention like this before, and they're into like video games and stuff like that. So I think it's a great family environment to bring people just to check it out.
From Seattle, Washington, Francisco, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Foodies converge on the popular 626 night market in Arcadia, California, eager to immerse themselves in a savory and sensory-rich experience. Here are Alan and Ava.
As unbelievable as it sounds, summer in Southern California is winding down.
And as residents try to squeeze in a few more waves, or hit the trail one last time, the 626 Night Market in Arcadia, California gives these outdoor adventurers the opportunity to refuel on tantalizing street food,
as well as enjoy a vibrant atmosphere, artisanal crafts, and live performances.
Obviously 626 is kind of like focused on Asian food, but there's a bunch of different kind of food. It's just a nice place to be around a lot of people and a lot of variety.
I'm holding the chicken cartilage skewers and he's holding lamb skewers. When you come here, obviously there's pricier food, but if you want to get the full experience, just come here. You're paying for the experience, not just the food.
Whether you're looking at just like all the indie shops, the small shops, if you're looking at all the different food, if you even want to just play the games that are around here, there's something for everyone, for all families, everything like that. So we got noodles from Taiwan, from Asia.
I would recommend it. It reminded me of like back home because I'm from Taiwan, so that's why I was interested in getting this as well.
We sell noodle bowls. The noodle bowls are sesame and soy based, so they are pretty delicious. They are also the healthiest instant noodles you could ever buy. Since it's super healthy, you'll feel refreshed, it's super light, the sauce is super tasty, and it's also, really healthy. There's not too much oil, not a lot of all the bad ingredients that other instant noodle brands use. We really enjoy seeing reoccurring customers. We had a couple of people come back even after other days, so seeing them come back really puts a smile on our face, and it just shows our employees that we're doing a great job.
People are here for a variety of food, and that's what they get here. So we like to see them enjoy our food. We like to see them share it with their friends and say, wow, this is great. And we like to see them share other people's food as well. The mango sticky rice is always one of our more popular items. We also have different boba drinks that are very popular. We have a noodle dish, pakimao, which is very popular, and fried oysters, and the crispy fried rice. My wife and our friends just enjoy representing their culture to all who are interested. So our customer base is a mix of Thai and Laotian people, but also people just curious, or people like me who have an affinity for the food.
We do very well because everybody loves our drinks, which is awesome. I really love mixing horchata and strawberry milk. It's such a hit. It's really good. Regular drinks by themselves, watermelon's very popular, passion fruit, strawberry lemonade. We have a new one, guava. That one's been really good. We always give free samples to everybody, make sure they like their drink before they get it, because we want to make sure that they're satisfied. So then when a few people actually said, like, who made this drink? And then I said, like, me, it's like, this is amazing, it's the best drink, and I really love hearing that, so it's great. Sunday Cafe stands out from the rest because we make our drinks with all natural fruit, no added syrup or powder, which is really rare because you see like a lot of booths, they don't make it like that. It's just syrup in their booths, so we make everything fresh.
Since we do Japanese sandwiches, we do different types of flavors and proteins with them. So it's familiar yet foreign at the same time. Our best seller is our spicy truffle chicken katsu sando, our strawberry cream sando, which eats like a dessert. So that for most people seems exotic because they've never had fruit on a sandwich, but it eats just like a cake. For the last 3 years, we've been traveling the country, almost like a rock band. And so we just pop up in different cities. We do different food festivals. We do our own pop-ups. And it's just been a kind of a crazy, interesting trip that, an egg sandwich is what started it all, has taken us this far. There's nothing else that's doing what we're doing. We're the only Japanese sandwich booth at 626.
What we do is we make cheesesteaks, pretty much not your traditional cheesesteaks as well.
but with traditional cheesesteaks. The best seller so far is going to be the bulgogi and also the Flamin' Hot. I live by the 3Fs, your family, your food, and your friends. And this is what the food fairs cover. So every time I see a customer come, watch us, and support us, and mostly our food is made from love. The buzz itself is just, organic. It's just friendly people, smiles, and all walks of life.
The 626 Night Market has always stood out for its support of local businesses, cultural richness, and of course, culinary diversity.
But more than just a place for great food, this organization aims to foster community connections and to celebrate the vibrant tapestry of cultures that make Southern California unique.
Eva and Alan, Arcadia, California. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
It's time for food. Today, let's try this summer-friendly, actually, it's a year-round friendly dish, seared honey ahi tuna by our very own Ika Era. Let's put on our aprons for this week's Behind the Counter.
Hey, I'm Ika, and welcome back to Behind the Counter, where we see easy and tasty meals be brought to life. This week we have a fantastic recipe to share with you. Let's take a look at this seared honey ahi tuna. Check back here for full recipes, and if there's a dish that you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below. Watch us on EagleNewsLive.com, on our Eagle News YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Check back next time when we go Behind the Counter.
Before we let you go, here's our photo of the week. This very cheerful sunflower shot was taken by our very own Ralph Cornell at the Maple Lawn Farms in Fulton, Maryland. Thanks, Ralph. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X at Eagle News Live. I'm David Oria. We live in extraordinary times. Stay happy and healthy, everyone.